Hey y'all, back again for another review of one of Alexandria House's series, and this one is the St. Louis Sires series, Goal, Holding, and Assist. Honestly, I love this. Like, it was really cool, especially because they were focused on hockey. I have not ever read a hockey romance, and honestly, I am a sports person, but I don't watch hockey at all. Nothing. And I'm glad that these books, even though they had the element of the sports team and of hockey in it, that it wasn't super hockey-y. I don't know how to explain that, but it it wasn't super hockey focused, and I really enjoyed that piece because I'm not a hockey fan. But I like that that was the sport that all of these people were involved in because all of the MMCs in each of the books are hockey players on the same team. Some of them are best friends or really good friends. And I enjoyed that as well because I love when things interconnect. I think it's really cool when you can see the relationships, the friendships upon each other kind of just build. But first, we are starting with Goal. And this was focused on Malik and Nuri, which, oh my goodness, I was not expecting this. I have had this book on my list, this one, not the whole series, because at first I was just like, I didn't know it was a series. But I've had this book on my list for 2 years. And just because of the cover, because I love the cover, I was like, oh, this looks kind of interesting, kind of cool, kind of sexy. And it was. I was not a fan of Malik. Let me just say that. I was not a fan of Malik because even though his ex in this book, who she's not his ex throughout the whole book, but at some point she becomes his ex, and I didn't like his kind of feeling of, oh my goodness, yeah, I have been with this lady for all these years and I never really loved her. It was just complacency. It was just him settling. And yes, he found the love of his life in Nuri, which I was happy for her. And I guess I was happy for him, but I still didn't like the idea that he had been basically like stringing this lady along, never being honest about his feelings. It was like, nigga, come on now, why you ain't? But she was a bitch. Okay, his ex was a total bitch and not a good person either. But it doesn't change the fact that he should have did his part because we didn't see her bitchiness until he got with Nuri, because which I also liked the layers of us basically seeing fat phobia play out, the layers of their relationship because she was technically nanny slash caretaker to the new responsibilities that he had, which is something that his ex really did not like. It was kind of like that was just the stressor of their relationship, but he had already not been wanting to be with this lady. So it kind of was just the excuse for him to be able to finally let the relationship go, but he had been wanting to get rid of the relationship for a long time. There was a lot of like father issues in this because he had father issues. His father did pass away, but still it kind of came up in all the decisions that he was making. And I thought that was interesting to see. But they were both experiencing different changes, but at the same times in their life. Because Nuri had experienced job, career changes, and he had experienced complete life changes because he now ended up having dependents that were his siblings because his father had passed. And he had never met these kids. He just decided to take on that responsibility because he felt like he needed to, which I commend him for because they didn't have nowhere to go. He didn't want them to go into the system. And even though he had a very tense relationship with his father, or even a lack of a relationship with his father, he didn't want them to suffer for it, which I can appreciate. I think the jealousy in this book was something so heavy, especially from the ex. She was so jealous and such a hater, so fatphobic, and just couldn't understand why he wanted to fall in love with this girl that was very different from him. And I think that's also just like a testament, like, man, you've been with, I guess maybe you could say, the supermodel, and now you're dating someone that's much more plush. And it's like, this has always been what you wanted. I think that conversation in the book was interesting. She was mad as hell the whole time, okay? But Nuri was sitting pretty. She was such a sweetheart, okay? Such a sweetheart, a class act. I think one of the funniest scenes that I read was when he walked into her room because she was living on site with him for a little bit, and she was pleasuring herself, and he heard screaming. He thought something was wrong, so he went to her room, and then he was like, oh, okay. Like, All right, and she was so caught, she was so embarrassed and everything, but I love that scene. That scene was something else because now she was screaming and hollering like that throughout the house. Like, damn. But I remember when I originally read this book, I gave it a 3.5. I think it's because I was mad at Malik a little bit. I was mad at Malik a little bit for how he handled everything with the other girl, even though I didn't like the other girl. But this is a 4-star read. This was a very good book and a nice, great opener to the series because this is your first meeting of a St. Louis Sires team member. So, but the second book, Holding, this was Ford and Crystal. I think this was a really entertaining read. I enjoyed this a lot. This was a 4.5-star read for me. I really liked the things that they covered in this book. They were both divorcees to each other. So this was technically like a second chance at love, in my opinion, which is so interesting because you find out that they actually weren't divorced. He did not know that they were still married, which I thought was a very interesting aspect to this whole situation because so much had happened by that point, and I liked them. I liked their dynamic. Then Alexandria added more because she added bipolar disorder to the book, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is interesting. Like adding that to her character, Crystal's character, I think was interesting because, like, honestly, I don't think I see that often, but also the way it was portrayed because of how their relationship panned out. Like it really did impact their relationship. And they had a long-standing relationship. They had known each other since they were kids, even through the grief of her brother and which was his best friend, and all these different things. There was so much, but it was beautiful to read because they really did get their second chance. They also was co-parenting a damn reptile, and I was just like, not this damn one. I was like, this is crazy. I ain't never heard no shit like this before in my life. The way that they were co-parenting this damn reptile had me so weak. Okay, they were really worried about this reptile, each of them, when each of them had custody of it, and I was just like, this is crazy. It's my kind of crazy, but it still is crazy because I would have never expected that. But I was very happy for how their relationship panned out, and like I said, 4.5 stars. Okay, now the final book, which is Assist. This is about Ishmia and Orlando. Ishmia is also Bambina in the story. I loved this book. Okay, I did not expect to love it more than the other ones as much as I did, but I really did. This was 5 stars. 5 stars for me. I enjoyed the story that was told, and I enjoyed the way that their relationship flourished with each other. I think they were really meant for each other. I think out of all of these 3, they convinced me the most. Like in real life, if I saw them, I would be like, yeah, they need to be with each other. Like they had so many similarities, kind of like orphanhood or adoptees. Like, but she was part owner of the St. Louis Sires, and he's a team member of the St. Louis Sires, and they, I guess, never wanted to cross that boundary, which makes sense. But then when they crossed it, it was just like beautiful. But they really just blended so well in this story. It almost felt like it was love at first sight. Truly. It felt like it was love at first sight. Even though I feel like they had definitely seen each other before we get their perspectives of this book, it felt like it was just love at first sight. I was pissed off at Ishmia's backstory because I needed her adoptee mother and that man to be put in jail. 1000% need to be put in jail. I hated what they put her through. I loved the way that we hear her rapping in the audiobook. Like, that was really cool. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I think she did her damn job in that shit. And I loved how Orlando's kind of backstory, like, he was an adoptee, but he did receive ownership of his mother's business, which was a very big fashion person. And so he had so much that she didn't even know of. And there were points in the book where she was like, you don't need to be doing all this. Like, I got it. And because she's like, look, like, I could do it. And he's like, okay, but you don't need to be the only person doing stuff. I could do it too. And I loved that for them. Like, they were so good with each other. And then when they blended with the other 2 couples, it was so wonderful to see. Like, at the end, it's always a happily ever after, which I think is cool. But I really liked their happily ever after because they both deserved each other. And I think that they both needed each other because of their past and their upbringing and what they have been through. I I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the whole series, to be honest. So that book was 5 stars, but this whole series was definitely like a 4.5 at least. Like, this was a really good series. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I can't wait to read more Alexandria House. This shit is getting good, and I will see you guys next time. But